the Pirates actually scored some runs for Paul Skenes. And if the things that we're hearing out of Pittsburgh are correct, he's not going anywhere, at least not yet.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. You can follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever they're calling it these days, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. But the best way to get a hold of me is right here by posting comments here on the YouTubes. And if you post a comment on the YouTubes, make sure to leave that hashtag Everyday Sully. Why? Because that helps me see who is actually listening to the dang show. By the way, we're doing a live feed today. I had some mic issues earlier last night, and I'm curious if those of you listening on there, if you're hearing any issues, let me know. Let your pal Sully know, because this is what I want to do. I want to make the best show that I can do for you. So I'm recording this show, and their game's still going on right now. I'm recording this on the 28th day of May, and some games are still going on right now, but a lot of games have wrapped up. A absolutely wild banana boats game between the Marlins and the Padres, back and forth and back and forth. The Marlins wound up winning that game by a score of 10-8. So it wasn't exactly a pitcher's duel in Miami. It was a game where Sheets got his 11th home run for the Padres, but Ramirez and Sanchez is, it's weird. Jesus Sanchez, every time I look up, he has a bunch of hits and driven in a bunch of runs. And you look at his stats, they're not that impressive. So maybe I'm only noticing the big games. It's a little upsetting if you're a Marlins fan, because your big ace, Sandy Alcantara, was terrible again. He let up 6 runs in 4 innings. His ERA is now up to 8.47. This is a guy who won the Cy Young Award a couple of years in 2022. And a lot of people are like, oh, he's going to be good trade bait, because that's what the Marlins are. They're a place that has trade bait. But the fact of the matter is he's been terrible and probably isn't going to go anywhere, because what are you going to get from him? But there you go. The Marlins did win that game, and that's going to affect the summer score there for a little bit for San Diego Padres, as they've had some great moments and some not so great moments. The Tigers are still the best team in the American League, and we'll be doing a Tiger episode later this week, so check that out. But the big game for me that I was really interested in was the Pirates came back to win a game against Arizona the other day, because that's what the Diamondbacks do. They blow games. And Paul Skenes pitched great. He pitched into the 7th inning, shutout ball. He threw 96 pitches, struck out. He only allowed 4 hits, and he allowed 1 double to a Carroll, and then 3 singles, walked none, struck out 7 in 6 2/3 innings. Now, he didn't pitch 100 pitches, but they took him out in 6 2/3 inning, because at that point it was 8-0. And I think the thought process was, well, let's put him under ice. And as it were, the Diamondbacks did score a run, but the Pirates wound up winning that game 10-1. Now, I did a whole episode, or part of an episode the other day, where I talked about the insanity about talking about him, Paul Skenes, even possibly being on the trade market, because he's someone you should be building the freaking franchise around. Well, Garrett Sherwin, who's a listener, wrote, as someone who lives in Pittsburgh, it's important to note that local media is reporting that the Pirates have no plans to trade Skenes anytime soon. I think maybe this was sort of national media speculating, because that's kind of what the Pirates do. They trade away their players. Garrett Sherwin continued. I'm not going to post the whole thing here, but said, I suppose that Bob Nutting, who is the owner of the team, and the team has been terrible under his watch, is planned to transfer majority ownership to his daughters within the next 2 or 3 years. It'll be interesting to see what impact this has on their willingness to spend money. I don't think any report suggesting the Pirates are looking to move Skenes are that credible. By the time Skenes hits free agency, it will be the Nutting daughters running the team. Okay, well, that's good news as someone who has a soft spot in his heart for the Pirates and someone who thinks that it's good for baseball for teams to build their franchise up around their homegrown players and their homegrown stars. The fact of the matter is, I'm not a big fan of handing the team to your children. We don't see that works in monarchies very well. And we've seen that when you hand the car keys over to their children, to their nepo babies, I don't really see that as being a great. It usually doesn't turn out well. There, you can point to a few exceptions here and maybe there. The O'Malleys continue to win after Walter O'Malley handed to Peter. The Yankees did win a championship with Hal Steinbrenner running the team, or in charge of the team. I don't know how much credit I'm going to give to Hal, but you've seen there have been instances where it's in the family and blah blah blah. And did I mention blah blah blah? But a lot of times the children are not the one they're super interested in. Here's the one thing that I will say, because usually what happens is you have it's usually the father or the parent, they're running the team, and there's not that same interest when they hand the car keys over to the kids. Here's what I'll say. The way the way that Bob Nutting has run the team as the owner, maybe you're better off handing it, because how are they going to be worse? How is the results going to be worse? And maybe, I don't know, there'll be a chip on the daughter's shoulders to say, oh, let me show dad how to run things. I don't know, but I'll believe it when I see it if the Nutting family does anything. But please, 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 Pirates, continue to score like this for Paul Skenes. Do you know why? It's good for business. All right. This episode of Locked On MLB is brought to you by wonderful pistachios. Right there. There, I got my bag of them. They're within, it's not full because I eat these. These are right here. These exist. Boom, right there. You don't always see them, but believe me, they're always there. And it's a snack that's both delicious and nutritious. And I crack into a good source of protein with wonderful pistachios. It's one of the highest protein nuts, and I've looked for this. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats. Now, I'm not going to eat on the air because that's disgusting. But am I going to go? Can we even see in there? Look, there they are, an unfilled bag because I've been chomping on them. And this is what I like them. This is one of my favorite ones. The lightly salted. I like I don't want the super salted. I want to feel like I jumped into the Pacific Ocean and opened my mouth. I like to have a little salt there, but I also want to taste the flavor of the pistachio. That's a big part of it. And these are great. But let me tell you something. This is a complete protein. They got all 9 amino acids. And wonderful pistachios, man, they pack such a protein punch in these little green wonders. I like the no shells. I don't want to deal with the shells. Some people like the shells. I'm not going to nut shame you here, okay? But whether you're running between meetings or dropping off the kids or doing what I do, which is going between teaching my students and doing the podcast here, wonderful pistachios are the snack. They work as hard as you do. So get snacking and get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Say that 3 times fast. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com and you can learn more. That's wonderful pistachios. Do you know what? I'm going to eat some of this. All right, let's see some of the what some other people are saying. By the way, some people are on the live chat here. Rufus24 says, any advice for an A's fan? Well, Rufus, the question I ask you is, where are you? Are you in the East Bay? If you're in the East Bay, It's a real tough call if you're in the East Bay whether or not you're going to stay devoted to the A's because they are the team that jilted you, the ownership. But if you're in Sacramento, I would advise, and I guess you got the different things here. Oh, you're in Texas. Well, there you go. So you're not a Let's Go Oakland fan, and you are not a you're a Sacramento follower. Oh, you're from Oakland. Okay. Well, my advice to you is this. If I would still root for them if I were you. I would stay loyal because something may happen. I've said this before. I do not have confidence that a stadium is going to be built in Las Vegas. It's going to be June in just a couple of days. There's no progress. What huge investors they have a gap of over $1 billion, and all of the cost estimates were done before all these tariff things and everything started. And we're seeing that there have been casino renovations and building that have stopped in the wake of a lot of these tariffs, and we don't know what the cost of anything is going to be here. And there's nothing. They haven't even had a groundbreaking ceremony at this point. So it would not surprise me if Las Vegas never happens. It wouldn't. It's certainly not. I'll put money on this, although I don't want to be suspended. But I have nothing. I have not an ounce of my body believes this will happen this decade. So support the team. They're underdogs, and stay with them. They may wind up in Sacramento forever. Who knows? My friend Michael X. Ferraro and I, who was a guest on the show a bunch of times, we're going to talk to him later this week. We thought because it's crazy that the A's have to share their stadium with the River Cats, the River Cats should move somewhere else. I've made this suggestion before. Move the Giants AAA team to Fresno and have the team that's currently in Fresno, the single A team for Colorado, to go to one of the other many cities in California that have a facility for a minor league ballpark, as a bunch of the California League teams were shuttered. I suggested Lancaster, but I learned that Lancaster's stadium may not be usable anymore. But have them play in Fullerton or do something like that. I mean, why not? Michael X. Ferraro and I were talking about the greatest revenge that the Giants could have on this whole thing is move the Sacramento River Cats to the Oakland Coliseum and call them the Oakland Giants and have that be the AAA team. I don't even know what would happen at that point. There would be one way to try to win over Oakland fans. Yeah, Oakland baseball is back, the Oakland Giants. Rufus, I feel for you because what they're doing to the A's is absolutely awful. And if you're a devoted A's fan, they've just treated you terribly, and they're treating the fans of Sacramento terribly. But that's because they're awful. Let's talk about some of the things. Oh, by the way, I forgot to answer the trivia question. Which was, what was the last American League team to win 100 games and miss the postseason? Now, someone said the 2018 Yankees, which I find strange because they won the wild card game that year and they lost in the division series. They got all the way to the division series, game 4. So they made it to the postseason that year. So, and a bunch of people said the San Francisco Giants in 1993, which I find strange because I brought up the 1993 Giants while talking about the question and saying they were the last major league team to win 100 games and miss the playoffs altogether. I said, who was the only American League team? But Prad's Master says the 1980 Baltimore Orioles, which must have had to stand for Steve Stone. Say stand for Steve Stone a bunch of times. The 1980 Orioles won over 100 games and missed the postseason because they played in the same division as the 1980 Yankees. And Steve Stone, who was acquired by the Baltimore Orioles that year, went on to win the Cy Young Award. And the Orioles were the defending American League champions. They brought in Steve Stone. Stone won the Cy Young Award, and they had a fantastic team, and they missed the playoffs altogether because they were in the Yankees. So there you go. Also, I talked about the fragility of history And I brought up the fact that if the Red Sox had gotten that final out in 1986, that Jim Rice would have been elected in the Hall of Fame on the first ballot, because the narrative of him would have been, okay, he wasn't the all-around player that Williams was, and he wasn't the all-around great hitter that Yastrzemski was, but they won the World Series with him. That would have been the narrative. He would have been on the first ballot. Dwight Evans would have been in on the first ballot, or at least gotten in. Clemens and Boggs would be beloved Red Sox probably for life. And Bill Buckner's legacy would have been of a tough, hard-nosed player who had a wonderful career. And user JV9Q2BU1R says, enjoy the spin history all through when the ball rolled through Billy Buckner's legs. Yeah, I mean, he was a terrific player. He was approaching 3,000 hits. And as I said before, the ball rolling through Buckner's legs is the single most overrated play in the history of baseball. It did not lose the World Series for the Red Sox. It did not win the World Series for the Mets. If he had made the play, the game would have gone on to the 11th inning. When that event happened, and it devastated me as a native New Englander rooting for the Red Sox, I was not even thinking about the Buckner era when I went to bed. I was thinking about the wild pitch that tied the game. So let's go on that. A couple other things. Let's see. When I was talking about the fact that baseball had teams not playing on Memorial Day, which makes absolutely no sense to me. Rivka, most of the people seem to agree with me on that. Rivka Meiselman says, you're right, Sully. Every team should be playing Memorial Day, July 4th, and Labor Day, and making massive tributes to those who made those celebrations possible. That's right. We should be honoring the fallen soldiers on Memorial Day. We should be saluting our country on the 4th of July. Canada Day, the Blue Jays should always be home on Canada Day. The Red Sox are always home on Patriots Day. Labor Day, we should have our union leaders and the people who have made our way of life in America through through our labor rights. How do you like the weekend? How do you like protection? How do you like workers' compensation? How do you like having any protection for your job? Thank you. And I'm saying this as a proud union member. And of course, there should be always the Nationals should always be home on 9/11, and the Yankees or the Mets, they should alternate being home on 9/11, or maybe always schedule the Yankees and the Mets playing then. I mean, I don't know. But if you can always make sure that the Red Sox are home for Patriots Day, then you can make sure that every team is playing on those days. If you have everyone taking that Tuesday after Memorial Day off, or having it be a really light schedule, I have no problem with that. None. You got to be playing on those days when everyone has off, or almost everyone. And I also talked a little bit about Buck Showalter, because he won Manager of the Year in 4 different decades, including this one. And you have to go all the way back to 2022 to see when he last won Manager of the Year. It was an innocent time. Back then, I was hosting a show called Locked On MLB. And there are teams that need a real manager, a veteran manager. The Pirates might be one of them. I do think the Blue Jays could use one. And certainly the Orioles. And maybe the Rocks. But I brought up Michael Warshaw _U4H says, Buck was really annoying. He was cranky and irritating as the Mets manager. He was disrespectful to the rookies. He was also part of the toxic clubhouse vibe. Mendoza is better. You might be right. He may have been the right manager to sort of change some of the direction of the team and getting him used to winning a few games when they went to the playoffs in 2022. And Mendoza very well might be the right person to take them to the next level. Kind of like when Showalter was managing the Yankees, maybe Torrey was the right guy moving forward. Was Bob Brenly the right guy moving forward when he took over the Diamondbacks and won the World Series as manager? No, he was the luckiest SOB since Jim Belushi. But another thought about Buck Showalter came from Try the Ribs. Man, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ends. Man, if Buck came back to Baltimore, I'd dance in the streets. So, looks like Met fans don't want him back. But who knows? He might be the right fit for Baltimore. You know, they need to do something. And the current manager, I'm not buying it. So a couple more people coming in here. This is Riley coming in here. Says Riley, I'm a diehard O's fan, but I have a major soft spot for the A's since Moneyball. Keep pulling those hardworking underdogs. FJF, and I believe you me, FJF. Bring ball back to the town. Um, I as much as I would like to see the A's move back to Oakland, I think that ship has sailed. I think baseball has wanted the Bay Area to be a one-team region for a while. I think the A's could have been a huge success in Oakland, and I think I never will understand why they didn't build a stadium in the basically the parking lot of the Coliseum. Howard Terminal one never made sense to me, and was it the Mills College? There was a couple of the ones that didn't make any sense. But I think they're gone. I don't think they're coming back. I've said there are other markets that are a lot better than Las Vegas to put a Major League Baseball team. And maybe Sacramento, maybe it can work there. Maybe it can work. Oh, by the way, Tim Firth is now coming. I think the Pirates will likely trade Skenes and Bay to the Mets for McNeil, McGill, Batty, Mauricio Williams, Sprout, Cash. Why not for for Jerry Kuzman? Why not for Mookie Wilson? Why not for Mr. Met? Why not for Oscar Madison's hat? Why would the Pirates make that trade? And I know that's someone coming in and saying, I know that's tongue in cheek, but there you go. A couple other things. Charlie Don't Surf, who's an everyday solid listener. Charlie Don't Surf 68. The Reds will win the division. Diluted? No, I honestly think we're going to pick things up now. And I don't think that's diluted. I really don't. I mean, as this is being recorded, the Reds are losing to KC, but we have seen teams rise up from the depths. Hell, just last year, look at how Detroit were selling, and all of a sudden they wound up getting all the way to the division series and had the Cy Young winner on the mound. Now he wound up having a bad game, but teams turn around. Atlanta turned around in 2021, won the World Series. Philadelphia turned around in 2022, got all the way to the World Series. We've seen teams have great second halves. Now, right now, the Cubs look really good. And they have the second best, as of this recording, they have the second best record in the National League, especially when thrown in that Los Angeles and San Diego both lost today. But the Cubs are not this is not the 2016 Cubs. Hell, this isn't even the 1984 Cubs. This is a good Cub team playing in an underachieving NL Central. And the Reds, who have had instances, they've had a couple really big hot streaks, some really big down streaks. This is the beauty of the middle part of the season. This is the beauty of that time between Memorial Day and the trade deadline, where a team like the Reds can say, okay, we are 7 games back in the loss column of the leader. But the leader is not invincible. The leaders had a terrific first third, but they could fall. What do we have to do to piece it together? And they have a third of the season to figure it out. They have some good pitching on that team. How are they going to pick up some bats? How are they going to do anything to try to, to spur this team along? Do they try to make a trade? Do they try to sign someone? If you saw, Hunter Renfroe is available right now as the Royals let him go. Now, I'm not saying Hunter Renfroe is the second coming of Orlando Cepeda, but this is someone who just a couple of years ago was a 20 home run hitter and could potentially have some pop. He had a horrible first third of the season with the Kansas City Royals, and he is 30. He's going to be 34 years old around New Year's. So he's not it's not like it's an MVP candidate is floating around, but he could be someone who could have used a change of scenery, may have had a moment of man, I've been humiliated. I need to do something here. And maybe you catch lightning in the bottle, which brings us back to the 2021 Braves, who got Rosario, Jock Peterson, and Jorge Soler for virtually nothing. And those were three players who happened to have great sparks on the team, and they went on to win the World Series. So if you're a team like the Reds, I would take a flyer on someone like him. And someone said, well, let's try something. And then when you get closer to the trade deadline, you can see where you are. And are you ready to make a run for it? By the way, Jock Peterson, who I mentioned, is part of a Ranger team that I picked to go all the way to the World Series, and is now having tons and tons of health issues right now. So we're going to see how that unfolds. By the way, Orlando Arcia, who was on that Braves team in 2021, and I brought him up just a couple of days ago. He signed with the Colorado Rockies and is going to add another veteran to their infield. And, they have Ezekiel Tovar is their shortstop. And who knows, is probably going to be their all-star representative, but, you could, you having an Arcia and a Tovar in your infield is not the worst thing in the world. It's not the worst thing in the world. And that's going to bring me to Felix Contreras, 4603. Thoughts on the Rockies? Summer's going to be tough. Yeah, this is going to suck. This is going to be one of those rotten summers. This is going to be an absolute rotten summer we see this. We see that, Warren Schaefer is not doing much better than Bud Black. Bud Black must be looking at the team right now and say, I could have done that. But here's what you do, Felix Contreras. Take a good long look at this team. Look at the Ezekiel Tovars. Look at the Jordan Becks. Look at the Brenton Doyles. Hell, look at the Mickey Moniacs, okay, who's not that old. He's, his former number 1 overall pick. And look at the Chase Dollander of the world and the Zach Agnos of the world and some of the other young players on the team. And memorize those names. Because there is going to be a point where the Rockies are good again. There will be a point where it's like an eclipse and everything lines up. And for a year or two, the Rockies will contend. Michael Tolia, thank you very much. What did I say? Did I say something else? But you take a look at this team. And you say, this team sucks. This team is going to lose 100. This team may lose 122 games. They may eclipse last year's White Sox team. They have 9 wins. 9, which, by the way, is German for no. They're probably going to hit 50 losses before they hit 10 wins. That's going to be this year they have. Memorize this lineup. Memorize every player on this team. Because here's the deal. When the Rockies are good again, and they will eventually be good again, you will be able to say, hey, much like our good friend Rufus there in Texas rooting for the A's, you can say, I was there for the rough years. I was there when the team stunk, and I stayed loyal to them. And that's kind of bananas to think like that sometimes, but that's what fandom is. Fan comes from fanatic, and we are fanatics. And yeah, it's going to stink this year, but it'll make it when they even become the 3rd wild card team, and it will happen. It'll make it all the better. Now, first of all, I want to just say I want to thank you all for making Locked On MLB your first listen. For your second listens, keep it right here and check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night, every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB or YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And on this day in history in 1957, the clubs of the National League unanimously approved the Giants and the Dodgers move to California, completely changing the landscape of baseball and sports in New York. And with that, the ripple effects of it can be felt to this day. As the Dodgers came to Los Angeles, The Giants, who are eyeing Minneapolis, moved to San Francisco. The trivia question is this. When the Giants played their first season in San Francisco in 1958, who was their manager? Walter Alston, the Hall of Famer, was the manager of the Los Angeles Dodgers and of the Brooklyn Dodgers the year before. But who was the first manager of the San Francisco Giants? Put the answer right down here on YouTube. And follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever they're calling it these days, and on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm on Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. But the best way to get a hold of me is right here on the YouTubes. Talking about Paul Skenes sticking around. Maybe the daughters will be better than the dad. How can they be worse? And wondering if it's going to be a good summer in Cincinnati, Denver, and debating Buck Showalter. This has been Locked On MLB. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.